Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Friday in the Rev. And boy, I'll tell you, we still got a lot of stuff to talk about. There are a lot
It
of things.
started on Wednesday and it's carried over to today. And we've got more and more crap to talk about. And
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you now. Do you remember the insurance program that Paul Coogan wanted to put the city in?
Oh, yeah.
And he
You
was
taped
the
that.
only mayor.
You taped that. You taped that meeting. It's on YouTube, right?
That's right.
When he said that he wasn't trying, and I said, "Well, I'm sorry, I got the email. You are trying."
Right. Well, it was announced today that the state agency that oversees health insurance for 460,000 public employees, retirees, and their dependents is on track to run out of money to pay claims on May 12th, a full 7 weeks before the end of the fiscal year. During a briefing to the Group Insurance Commission, GIC, Thursday, Executive Director Matthew Veno said rising provider prices and increased utilization of prescription benefits, including for GLP-1 weight loss drugs, has caused the commission to run an average $20 million monthly deficit for the fiscal year.
Well, we remember a long, long time ago when Will Flanagan was going to put the entire city on the GIC,
Right.
and that spearhead was spearheaded by Michael Coogan, who was on the chairman of the IAC at the time. I was retired. Then I went before the council and said the GIC is trash. It's bad for the employees. It's bad for the city. Plan modeling is better. And I got a call at 11:30 in the evening from Flanagan, and he actually forgot. I think he went senile because on the radio one night he said he put the city in the GIC and saved us millions of dollars, which wasn't true. We saved millions of dollars on plan modeling, which I got them into. Then I had a meeting with him and Kathy Ann the next day, and they went to plan modeling, and we saved millions. We've run under budget. The GIC is a absolute. Oh, we got MAGA flags up. All right, that's it, everybody. Good evening, everybody. But yeah, Paul tried to, as soon as he get in his first term, he thought he was going to save a few dollars, and we got it on tape. We caught him. He said he wasn't trying, and I knew he was trying because I have my sources. And if you go on there, you can go Fall River PEC. I think that may be the only one on YouTube. It was a long time ago, but you'll see. That's when he called me Rain Man because I knew the numbers. And I told him, you're trying to get in because I got the email that you sent them.
I remember that.
It is a disaster. It was a disaster from the get-go. Why do you think everybody who can retire in Fall River that's eligible for state or county retirement retires in Fall River? They don't want to go into the GIC. Linda Pereira could have retired with the county, state, retired in Fall River. Ray Mitchell never worked for the city except as a counselor, but because he paid in as a counselor too, he retired in Fall River. Why? And ask him. He'll tell you. He's always on the phone with me when he has healthcare questions. Ray Mitchell, city of Fall River. They all retire in the city of Fall River if they're eligible. Like the housing authority, everybody wants to be in our plan because we are not in the GIC and we work at it. And we keep the costs down and get the best bang. We had probably the lowest increase in premiums in the state. The GIC is just like, what's our favorite? The MBTA. They love these acronyms. GIC, MBTA. You give the government anything to run and you're screwed. They can't run a one-man parade. Nobody, these Democrats and these nitwits in this state who keep electing Democrats haven't figured out that all they know how to do is tax and spend. And then when they run you into the ground, they go, oh, there's nothing we can do. We're going to have to triple your health care, or we're going to have to dump this health care and get you some piece of crap. So we've got over 400,000 state employees now that are going to bend over because they let those idiots keep the GIC. It's been a mess since the get-go.
Yeah. We've heard
Absolute disaster.
We've heard nothing but disaster comments regarding the GIC. Nothing but disaster comments. And I'll tell you now, history repeats itself because people don't learn. People don't learn. Just look at the election of Paul Coogan. I only want one term. I don't want Fall River to go through this mess again, and we're going through it again for a third term.
And he wants a fourth. And
people don't learn. People just don't learn.
Hello, Annalise and Linda. We are reading your stuff. So, yeah, look at this again proves the incompetence of anything they touch. They have like the reverse Midas touch. Everything he touched turned to gold. Everything they touch turns to crap. The MBTA, and the worst public works project in the history of mankind, except for the bullet train in California. What was that, CJ? The Big Dig.
That's right.
The Big Dig. You give these clowns your money, they will never stop spending. The only way to fix this is get to the polls. You're right. Paul Coogan wanted one term. Yeah, you're right. Make Democrats irrelevant. I like that. That should be a campaign slogan for some people. Make Democrats irrelevant. They should be irrelevant because, I mean, they can't look at the states. The stat I read on one of the last show or the show before about how much they spent. They spent over $400 million on some studies and for heart disease, and we spend 4 times more than any country, but we have a lifespan 7 years less. And out of the $400 million from this particular spending spree they went on, $305 million were from what? California, New York, and Massachusetts.
I love this comment on the
screen. That's true. That's true. Oh, that nice one. That's a good one. Yeah, getting crap. We don't. People used to. A lot of people say we hate to say we told you so, but CJ and I love to say that, right? CJ,
love it every time.
We told you so about the charter. We told you so about Durfee. We told you so about the GIC. We told you about the MBTA. We told you about this stuff. But the thing is that Paul Coogan should have never got a second term. We cannot allow this to be run by 12 to 14,000 voters when we have 55,000 voters. We had nearly 50,000 turnout in the last election. We need 40 or 50,000 to come out again and clean this house. We're like hoarders. We've hoarded these incompetents for years, and we got to get them out. Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, and we also at one point in time, I don't know what the latest stat is, Annalise, but we were losing 100,000 people a month moving out of the state because anybody that could. I did not get to watch the entire thing yesterday, Colin, and I was going to ask you. We were going to get into that debacle, and I know that you and Kevin talked about filing a complaint and about ethics issues, and of course you were outvoted by the bobbleheads. Heaven forbid. The mayor goes on television and talks about something. Then he wants to go into executive session like it's a big secret. You were already on television talking about it, But then his moron, the nitwits on that school committee that are bobbleheads, try to still keep everything a secret. And he talked about transparency when he first ran. He's never been transparent, but it's an election year. He got his puss on TV, just like he got his puss down in front of the Social Security office, which is BS too. That thing was going to be closed. Everything for a 40. You don't see Paul Coogan for 2 years. It's an election year now. Anywhere where there's a camera, he'll be at everything. Open up a letter, Paul will be there if there's a camera. This is BS again. If you want to comment and give us a little bit more background, that to me, from what I saw already, and the fact that he went on, he spoke about it on television, never held up any kind of thing for the public, and then wants to go to executive session to talk about these secret things that you can't discuss. All I know is, didn't you guys get money for the computer security? Am I wrong on that? Colin, correct me, or CJ. I thought they got some money for that stuff.
And here's the kicker. Initially, when the school department was hit with this ransomware attack, Paul turned around, went on the TV, and went to the foreign reporter and said, "We are not insured." Then it came up that they received money, federal monies, for cybersecurity. Then all of a sudden, Paul goes back on TV and lies through his teeth again and says, "Oh no, we were insured." Not I was mistaken. No, we were insured. And I have a serious problem. Okay? Number one, I do not believe for a moment that a ransomware attack falls under the guidance or guidelines of executive session. Do not for a moment.
Yeah, he wanted to go into, he said executive session. David said executive session. No. Yeah, did file an open, yeah, you did. Oh, you opened with that. You talked about a violation of the open meeting law. But listen, fundamentally, my question basically was, when you went into executive session, it was to duck answering questions and not having the public know, because he was afraid that you or Kevin might ask him a question that he didn't want to answer.
He never
wanted to ask him what happened. Didn't we have money for this? Didn't you? You've been giving us 3 or 4 different scenarios. That's right. He is the master of misinformation. Yeah.
He's a liar. Let's call it what it is. He's a liar.
Well, yeah. Or as I like to, we have to put this delicately, he is Paulie the prevaricator.
Yeah.
Pathological prevaricator, if we want to have a little make it really good. It'll be like Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, and say that fast. Paulie the pathological prevaricators. Say that 6 times. Have all those bobbleheads say that at the next meeting, Collins. See if one of them can get through it without getting their tongue. Yeah. Well, we're getting a lot of nicknames now.
Let me go through this line. Okay.
Master of mendacity. Yeah. Listen, there's not enough time to make up nicknames for Paul. But the only thing we can say is he is probably the most incompetent mayor we've ever had. I've never seen anybody lack leadership ability. Look, politicians are politicians. We've seen it before. But this guy, yeah, well, he's always changing his story. But you know the story he never changes? what he did with the $70 million of ARPA money, because nobody will ever know, because he had his pal handling all the money and nobody got to see it. And now Chris Peckham, who's running again, and hopefully he will get in again, said that he had to basically get out of there because they wouldn't let him speak, or they wanted to do everything behind closed doors and keep everything a secret. And it was money given to help the city of Fall River. This guy is the most incompetent. What? Okay. But he has no leadership ability. Listen, guys, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure he's going to have a difficult time being the mayor of the city of Fall River when he didn't have enough leadership ability to be selected as a principal. He spent his tenure as a vice principal. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
sure.
Those complaints, which are supposedly secret, are being filed by Rainey Brown. Remember Rainey Brown, Chip? She filed those
complaints against we're misogynists and
remember that?
Oh yeah.
She went to the open meeting law overseer and asked him to file the open meeting law complaints that she wanted filed, because they brought up Paul Garvin in the city council chamber without it being on the agenda.
Did they file one against Laura Sampson? Because she brought him up too. I doubt
Rainey Brown did, but I do know that they're filing one against Sean Kadim and Cliff Ponte.
Well, I mean, fair is fair. If they're going to file a complaint, which will go nowhere, I believe, and I'm going to have to review the meeting again. But if I remember correctly, Laura Sampson alluded to Garvin too. She said, "You got the former police chief sitting over here, and the other police chief talk about intimidation." I'm paraphrasing, but I think it's pretty close to exactly what was said, because I was sitting in the chamber when that happened.
Right.
So, look, Renee Brown is an alligator mouth attached to a canary ass. She threatens a lot. Let them sue. Countersue them. She threatened to sue us, and I said, bring it on. My lawyer's waiting to countersue. She thinks it's illegal to be a misogynist. Even if we were misogynists, it's not illegal to be a misogynist.
That's right.
And I know she's a lawyer, but I gave her a definition, see if she still remembers. What do you call a woman who hates men? A misogynist is a man who hates women. Renee, do you know that? If you're watching, come on. I'll give it to you again. You can look it up in a dictionary. It's a misandrist. That's a woman who hates men. It's a misandrist. That is the opposite of a misogynist, okay? A misandrist. So I don't know, you hate, you're going to file complaints for all your friends. Is somebody going to file a complaint about you, an ethics complaint, or maybe with the board overseers? Because everybody saw you. It's on video hugging the police chief. Are you doing this? Are you doing this because you have a direct relationship with the police chief? So everybody saw that. So I think ethically you should not be opening your mouth, because you do have the perception of a relationship with this, and these complaints may be frivolous, arbitrary, and capricious.
And we know Laura.
Somebody may countersue you.
Yeah, we know Laura has a direct relationship with the police.
Oh, what are you going to do? Are you going to run to the chief judge like you did in the courthouse? We know about the time that you got cocky with a judge and he was going to hold you in contempt, and you went and run into the judge saying, please, judge, I didn't mean it. I don't know. He said, I got to earn a living. Please. No, tell him not to hold me in contempt. Alligator mouth attached to a canary ass. And that's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it.
Aren't we all? Speaking of alligator mouths attached to canary asses, Did anyone look at the agenda for Tuesday's city council meeting?
Yep.
Two things stick out in my mind. Number one, the mayor sent down to the city council again in violation of what the city council asked for because they wanted a process on hiring a new chief. The mayor sent down to the city council another confirmation request for the interim chief and approval of her contract. Why was that? Why did that happen? I'm going to tell you why. A two-face, a lack of a backbone city councilor called the mayor and said, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to change my vote, send it back down, and we'll get her confirmed. Why? Because allegedly, a friend of Linda Pereira, who will remain nameless because he's not a public figure, went to Linda on behalf of his son, who is in the police department, and wants to keep good feelings between the new chief, the son, and the rest of the department. But something that was said today on social media, which has been going around for a while, this proposed chief, hey, Paul, open your ears, begin to read. This proposed chief doesn't have a college education, allegedly. Allegedly. And accordingly, she allegedly didn't start getting promoted until Paul became mayor. Tell me there's not a conspiracy here. Tell me there's not a conspiracy. This is what happens when you elect idiots. And Linda has proven time and time again that she's out for Linda. Hence why she gets her health insurance from the city.
The coven.
Okay? This is what happens when you lay it out.
Well, let's see what happens at that council meeting. It should be very interesting. Like I said, the council asked for a process. I think the people of the city of Fall River would like to see a process.
Well, according to a city council
that has gone on record as saying, you know, it's long overdue to go outside the city. It's too bad that this interim chief has been put into this box. She's going to be, you know, she is being victimized by the circumstances. People are tired of it. You know, we've gone through police chiefs like diapers. People have been calling to get outside the department like they did with the Mass State Police, like they did in Cranston, Rhode Island, like they've done in numerous communities throughout the state. You got to clean, you know, there are too many tribes and too many cliques. That was said at the council meeting. I think, unfortunately, I like to see, you know, promotions from within. If they would have stayed in civil service, they would have taken a test and they could have picked from the top 3 candidates, but they didn't. Now everything's political. And Paul, no mayor in the history of Fall River has gone through police chiefs like Paul Coogan. It's like babies with diapers. You got to change them all the time. Paul just can't pick a chief because there's always because everything's political, and then you get politicization of everything. And this is a problem. And I feel sympathy for her to be in that position. She's going to be, regardless of whether she was the most eminently qualified, it's about process.
That's
you know,
right.
and they're right. It's about, and every time Paul's involved, it's lack of process to allow him to get his way. Just like the 5th member of the board, retirement board. He circumvented the law. Perrak came down and said they violated the law, but he got to appoint the 5th member. Now, I have nothing against this 5th member. He's actually a pretty decent guy. I think he made a choice, but he made a choice with a guy that really, really understands numbers, and he's learning about the system, and so far he's been very, very good. They had one before when they pulled that, and Joe Marshall resigned because they wanted the neutral fifth member. But it's the process. We got lucky. They picked a guy who so far has been very, very reasonable, and listen to the facts, and we've worked together well. But we could have got a political hack who did what the political hacks did to force the fifth member being appointed by the mayor. And this is the problem. The problem is that he doesn't abide by the law. If this chief would have put in, they would have had some kind of process, and she was selected, I don't think we'd have this problem.
No, we wouldn't have this discussion.
But what they're doing is they're deflecting it to make this whether you like this person or not. I don't really know her from.
Neither do I.
I don't know her, and I've talked to police officers, and I've gotten different opinions of her, but it doesn't matter. As I said on one of the other shows, when you're a chief, you've got to tell people what to do. And even people who liked you before may not like you after you tell them to do something they don't really want to do. And that's where leadership comes in. That's why in the military, they don't allow officers to fraternize with enlisted men, because you have to give these people orders. So listen, she might be the best chief, and I don't know what's going to happen if she becomes the chief. I hope she's a good chief, because I want to see the chaos stop. But we got to remember and get down to the bottom line. That's the symptom. What is the disease that caused this chaos? Paul Coogan and lack of leadership. That is the disease that causes all this chaos, whether it's in a school committee, the police department, anywhere. He is the disease that causes the problem.
Well, we've seen it over and over again.
Good, Alphonse. This is why we need to get people in a council who are going to do the right thing, follow the law.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Andrew Raposo, okay, they wanted process. He didn't want process. Andrew Raposo stood behind the interim chief. Andrew Raposo has stood with the mayor. Andrew Raposo has voted for everything the mayor wanted. Andrew Raposo voted for water rate increases. Andrew Raposo voted against the people of Fall River. Andrew Raposo, do the city a favor. Throw your nomination papers away. Go back to being a principal at the Catholic school and stay playing basketball with the kids, because you're a crappy city councilor. And I hate saying it, because at one time I had a great deal of respect for you. But I have seen over time how piss poor management skills you have, and how your vote is bought and paid for. Same with Laura Sampson. Thank God she's not running for re-election. That's one less bobblehead and one less yes vote for Paul Coogan. Now, if we can get rid of Brad Kilby and Paul Hart and Joe Camara, we might get somewhere.
1995 revisited. That's what we need.
Exactly.
At least. But, this is the problem. They always make this about personalities. Do you like this person or not? Yeah, my next door neighbor, I get along with. But if he was a plumber that couldn't fix my plumbing, I'm not going to hire him. I always say that. They go, oh, yeah. But that's true. I don't care if she's nice. I hope she's a good leader, because that's what she needs to be. Because that's what happens. You have to be a leader. You have to do the hard things. You have to give the hard orders. You have to take the hard line about keeping the department in step. And that actually contributes to esprit de corps, to a better department. You know something? People can complain, but they actually like to know what the rules are. When you have a sliding scale for rules, nobody's happy because they don't know what's going to happen. And that's the reality. We need a city council that needs to remember one simple thing. They are not there to agree with the mayor. They are there as the legislative body. That's the executive branch. They are there as a legislative body to look at everything the mayor does with a magnifying glass like this and make sure that that money is being spent in the best interest of the city of Fall River and its taxpayers and people. That's what they're there for. They're not there to play footsie with the mayor. The only thing the council can be, if they're doing their job, is ask for one thing. All I ask for at the bargaining table. Tell me the truth and give me respect. We will have mutual respect and we can peacefully coexist. If you don't do that, you're going to have a war on your hands. The council is supposed to be a check and balance against the mayor's misspending. But this council, the majority of this council, watched him blow over $70 million and not do a damn thing for the people of Fall River, who have watched him misspend, give gigantic, humongous pay raises, $40,000 to one person. That's more than the average per capita income in the city of Fall River. The median per capita income. Go on the United States Census Bureau and check it. Last time I checked, it was $31,998. Okay? And the household income is $53,000 and change. That's less than half of the states. So that's not their job to play footsie with the mayor and give him everything he wants. They're there to do what Michelle Dion and Cliff Pont did at that last meeting and say, we're looking at this, and I want to know why you need this $1.3 million. And they admitted they didn't need it. That's what the taxpayers need. They need a fiduciary, a steward of their money. And they are legally bound to do that. They're not bound to kiss the mayor's butt.
Isn't that the truth? And as we've been saying for how many years?
Look,
follow the money.
About 15 now.
That's right. Follow the money. Every year, Paul Ferlin, Terry Sullivan, I'm going back now, have said, if we don't get this rate increase, we're going to have to lay off operators and the state's going to come in and take over. How many times did we hear that? Every year.
Virtually every year, yeah.
But this year, all of a sudden, take the $1.3 million. That's okay. We understand. Because now the new interim chief financial officer wants to go back to zero-based budgeting. Imagine that. Well, for this interim chief financial officer, take the fluoride out of the water budget. We don't put it in our water. Don't budget for it.
How about the other line? Other. Well, let's find out what other means.
What's on the other? That's the whole thing.
Take out the other until they can justify it. Nobody should have a blank check in their budget. And if you're doing zero-based budgets, you can't have a blank line.
That's right.
Other what? Other trips to Bermuda? I don't know. What does other mean? They have other. But look, we knocked out 1.3 million. It begs the question: how much more can? It's like Musk with the on a federal level. We had people. We had 300 people being paid to do the work of 5, and this is crazy. And this is what the council is supposed to do. Like I said, I have case law from Cornell University Law Institute that says that public fiduciaries are held to a higher standard than regular fiduciaries because they're dealing with taxpayer money. And they are supposed to look at it, and I'm quoting from a court case, and I'll pull it if you want to see it at the next show, that says they have to look at it. They just can't take what's presented to them. They have to look at it with a, quote, critical eye, unquote. That's what the judge said who rendered a decision in that case. So these people are not there to play footsie with the mayor. They're here.
This city council is, and this school committee is.
Yeah.
Okay? This is the problem.
Yeah.
We don't have.
I think we're starting to get enough marijuana dispensers now. I think they're going to be starting to. You see the business beginning to be spread out. They're going to be as easy as good. What we need to do is get more people working in this city and realizing that it's not building facades that make this city go. We had millions of. We had convenience stores all over the place. We had all kinds of stores. Every storefront on Pleasant Street, every storefront on South Main Street was full when we had mills operating. Donald Trump said he knows that we have to bring manufacturing jobs back to the United States to save the working American.
That's
and
right.
Fall River is a classic example. We do not, Newton has nearly 80% of their population has a bachelor's or higher. 98.8% of their people have a high school diploma. Most of those people with a college degree work in industries that require that. But when you work in a blue-collar city like Fall River, Massachusetts, or Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when they close the steel mills or they close the sewing shops, cities go belly up. That's just a simple matter of history. Look at your history. How many towns in the United States died when their manufacturing left? Because those are blue-collar cities, or what they euphemistically call gateway cities, which means the gateway to poverty. That's what that means. And the fact is that we need to be training people in this city. We need more vocational education. We need federal grants. Rhode Island did it. They trained people to weld, and they got them all jobs at Electric Boat. That's what we need. We need people to work and get a paycheck. And then you will see the city thrive again. We're not going to be a Newton. We're not a suburb of Boston. We're all a rich, people with more degrees than a thermometer, come here to just go to sleep and go to restaurants. And there's no industry fundamentally except stores in Newton. It's fundamentally a bedroom community for all the elitists that work in Boston. Just like Wellesley and the rest of those communities that surround that town are. Yeah, he is actually. He's the Phantom Man. But the thing is that what communities like this need is small business and manufacturing. Trump knows that. I mean, he's a builder. He knows how many people he employed. Yeah, and remember, God. Well, we had a bunch of the places. Remember up in the industrial park, they had was it Light Aaliyah?
Light Aaliyah? Oh yeah,
a lot of Fall River people. They had a few major employers. Then we had where Walmart is now, major employer.
Duro
Manufacturing. Yeah, the Durfee Union Mills. Yeah. Well, listen, look, I grew up blue collar. My parents were, they lived through the Depression. They were young during the Depression, but they lived through a Depression. They couldn't get an education. They had to go to work as soon as they could. My father actually worked on construction most of his life, and then as he got older, he learned to be a machinist, and he ended up working in a machine shop at Doro. So my father worked in Doro. My mother worked at Shelburne Shirt for 25 years. Then she worked at Stella Ann Frocks for another 30. She worked 55 years in a mill. I know what it is to have working parents. And they went to work every day because they didn't have sick leave. They didn't have anything. They had to go to work. And my mother started working there after the Depression. So they weren't making a lot of money either. But this is the kind of community. Did that make them, they're not elite, but this is what we need. We got good people in Fall River. My parents were hardworking people. People worked hard in those mills. They earned a living, and they spent their money at local stores. And we had a good city. But when we got people like Kenny Fiola and Paul Coogan that cater only to the rich and don't care and just want all the poor people to be gone, that to me, that flies in the face of what Fall River is all about. Fall River is about hard work and blue collar people.
Well, this is an interesting thing. Channel 10 was here yesterday at Durfee. I was hoping they went down to the Fall River line pier afterwards. I called Channel 10 and emailed them. I called and emailed Channel 12. Sent them the report from the auditor on the Fall River line pier. You know what I was told? We'll put it in the queue. And if a reporter decides that it might be interesting to look at, they might do a story on it. This is how corruption keeps going. Why won't they do anything? Because Ken Fiola is married to a state representative. That's why the Attorney General is not doing anything. That's why the DA of Bristol County won't do anything. That's why the Fall River Police won't do anything. Because they're all connected. They're all connected. And that's the problem. They're all connected, and people want to make sure that political paybacks are good. And guess what? It doesn't work.
Well, listen, if you or I did that, now let's look at what we read on the show, at the last show, what you read. We had people on the board voting money to be expended to places they had a financial interest in.
Yep.
That's a crime.
Yes, it is. And let me bring up that report, and I'm going to read just the highlights. Okay. The more recent audit uncovered several issues, including payments totaling $187,921 to 5 companies without disclosing financial interest of board members of their families, suggesting potential conflicts of interest. 2, failure to retain meeting minutes for all board members, which could undermine governance, integrity, and accountability. Imagine that. No accountability. 3, inaccuracies in recording check numbers for 33 transactions, increasing the risk of financial misstatements and fraud. The state auditor suggests to address these findings, the auditor recommends that the Fall River line pier, 1, establishes formal policies for financial activities requiring board members to declare conflicts of interest and certify no conflicts per vote. 2, ensure the retention of meeting minutes and define clear record retention periods. And 3, implement better internal controls, including segregating duties, monitoring checks, and reviewing financial data in QuickBooks. That is what I call an absolute, pure line of bull.
Well, that's
should go to the Attorney General for formal prosecution.
Yeah. Well, the number one, the state is going to do nothing because the state rep's going to run over to the office And,
That's right.
But let's look at this. You don't have to be a detective. You said money was spent that people had a potential financial interest in, but there were minutes missing. What do you want to bet that the minutes are missing for the meetings that they voted for money to places that they had a financial interest in?
Of course.
It doesn't take, you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes to figure out that you're right. At least these people belong in jail. When rich people do it, they get away with it. Unless somebody hates them and they're politically connected. Poor people do that. If a labor union did that, if a labor leader did that, they would be brought up, handcuffed, and taken away. Unless, of course, they were Democrats. And then they'd let them do it. They'd let them steal the money. That's ridiculous. For them to say that they're not going to investigate the fact that these people actually gave money to themselves. That's what they did. They have financial interests in those institutions, and they earmark money for them. That's exactly, you're right. It is a two-tier justice system, and this is crazy. I mean, listen, this city now, it's like we got. It's like having Al Capone in charge here. The Phantom Mayor and his merry band of carpetbaggers are taking more money out of this city now than they've been coveting that waterfront for 40, 50 years. From the time they built Point Gloria down there. They thought that was at the beginning of their renaissance where they were all going to become multimillionaires. I'd like to see how much money Ken Fiola has made off the MBTA for legal fees. But he won't do that because he'll say, oh, I'm a private businessman.
That's why Ken Fiola wouldn't reveal how much money he makes. He's not a public official. He's a private individual making money on the side, even though it's on the taxpayer dime.
Yeah, look, I mean, and I know we've got so much to complain about. We can't even get about how ridiculous the school committees become. I mean, I gotta go back to that because I really feel I feel a lot of sympathy for the plight that Kevin and Colin are in. They're trying to do the right thing, and it's at least at the city council. You have a few people that will maybe make a little noise. But I mean, with those two, it's ridiculous. Even though you can get a motion in a second because those two are the only people that will actually support each other for doing the right thing. But the rest of those bobbleheads, and they do it all the time. It's like, okay, we want to save the taxpayers' money. I got a motion in a second. Any debate? No. Vote? Up. Two yays, all the rest nays. It goes down. We're going to cover up Matt Malone, 2 nays, all yays. We're going to cover it up. I mean, that place, as bad as the city council is, the school committee is an absolute alternate universe. I cannot believe that thing. I watch those meetings, and I gotta take I want to hit myself in the head with the ball peen hammer, not just a regular hammer. Oh, what's this? Yeah, I was just going to put that one up. Yeah, but Taunton has always had fairly. Taunton had a Republican mayor for a while, didn't they?
They still do.
They still do. What there's your answer, everybody. She was a state rep before, right?
That's right.
She was a state rep, one of the few state reps. Republican state reps, and now she's the mayor. And Taunton's always had a very, very good economic development. And Flanagan worked over there in the law department with Torres, And it's amazing. And Taunton's like 1/3 our size. But they do things, well, New Bedford, everybody does it better than Fall River now. We've fallen into a malaise. And the bottom line is there's only one cure. Get your ass to the polls and vote. It's that simple. These things are not popularity contests. Elections are not who you like. It's who's going to serve you. You do not go out and look for the worst contractor with the best personality to fix your house.
That's how they go
for the mechanic that can tell the funniest jokes.
That's how they vote for River.
For God's sakes, we want to fix our government. We got to put people in who will tell you that they're going to work for you. Period. Yeah, well, I still like masshole because that's what it is.
I'll tell you. We listen to you, bitch. We listen to you moan. We listen to you say we need a change. And then when it comes time for you to make that change, you do nothing. I'm too busy to go voting.
Josh just said Shauna O'Connell. Actually, that it is. And I
it actually is Shauna O'Connell. I know.
I met her. She's very friendly with a friend of mine. And she was a good state rep, and she's a good mayor because, she's fiscally conservative, and but she also takes care of her people. That's what they do. It's about it's about the working. Like I think Trump said it best. There for they them, and I'm for you, for the regular people. And this is a blue-collar community. It will never change. I don't care if Paul Coogan tries to convince you that someday every PhD from Harvard and Newton and Wellesley from MIT are all going to move to Fall River with its terrible educational system and its high crime rate, and then take the T for 5 hours to go back to MIT.
Well, right now,
that shit crazy.
Right, and right now, Paul and the superintendent of schools, Curley, are touting the fact that, we're doing so wonderful with early college admission. Early college admission? They go to BCC.
Yeah,
they take a course at BCC, and they get credit for it at Durfee. They're just shifting where they're getting their education because it's free. Yeah, you're right, Josh. But we're gonna give Furtado $200,000 a year because, as Paul said, we have to pay more if we want to attract more.
That's not. Well, that's listen. That's the con they use for the high-paying jobs. But when the low-paying jobs, we still got people working as clerks over there that are making 30-some grand. So that's BS. His friends and his department heads they get the pay. And many let's look at that theory since Paul's been in office. How many CFOs have we been through? How many police chiefs have we been through?
4.
And it's like, we every time we get a new one, we pay them more money, and we don't even know if they can do the job. Don't those people, when they start a job, start at a lower salary? And then they incrementally get pay raises after they prove they can do that job. Don't police officers,
or worse, they get incremental pay raises every year, whether or not they can do the job.
I know. Well, don't police officers. I know firefighters and police officers have. You get on and you're a recruit. You're a new guy. You get a lower pay scale. Then as you get more, you learn the job better. You have to get the top salary as a patrolman. They did cut the number of steps in a police department, but you do have incremental steps. Why don't we have incremental steps? You want to make that salary $215? Why don't you start it and say, well, if you last at the end of your 3-year contract, you go 175, 185, 195, and then after your 3-year contract, you'll think about $215 based on your performance. But
because Paul can't buy a vote that way.
That's right. Paul loves to give everybody he knows money because you don't get appointed to anything that Paul has control over unless you got his back and you're going to vote just the way he wants you to vote. So that's the bottom line. And the only way to change that is guys like Josh. He did a great job on a recall. I know how hard he can work. We got to all get back together, and we got to get people out to the polls. We got to do what we did in the recall. We did it once, and we did it with no money. We didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. We did something that nobody else in the state. All the rich people ran recalls in the rich towns and weren't successful. But you guys, you know, it was a great experience. You saw people. That's the great experience. You saw people with different political beliefs, different. They like different sports teams. They were totally different, but they all worked their ass off for a cause to get that recall through. The cause is to change our government. You can vote for who you want, but we got to get people to the polls and then keep changing them. You know, there's got to be a cause greater than politics, because look what happens when all we base our votes on is politics. You're right. I mean, you know, the last thing the Coogan administration ever does is hold anybody accountable except somebody they want to get rid of. When they want to get rid of you, they'll hold you accountable.
Right. Or they'll make it up. Or they'll make it up.
All I want to ask is, they going to hold Kenny Fiola accountable for letting people not having minutes? No, of course not. You and I did that. Josh, try to run your company that way. Have no records. Don't keep track of your checks. But then again, you're in private industry. You never survive.
That's right.
That's the reality. The reality is people who work in private industry have to actually, you know, do it right. Unless you're a Democrat and you've got a high-tech firm, and then they'll give you $10 million just for turning on the lights.
That's it.
Hey. Great show.
Yep. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. I want to wish you and your family a happy Easter.
Happy.
Please enjoy your weekend. It's supposed to be beautiful. And remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable, because God knows in Fall River, we let them get away with all types of bullshit. Have a great weekend.
Happy Easter.